The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Accounting Showdown for October 29th, 2015, presented by Intacct Artists. Before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping items related to the GoToWebinar toolbar. First off, you'll see in the upper left-hand corner, you have a little orange button. You can click that to hide your toolbar, give you more space on your screen, and you can click it again if you need to access any of the other options. Some of the options that you might be interested in include the audio options. You can dial in with the number that's provided, or you can use your mic and speakers. And thirdly, if you have a question, we'll be pausing throughout the webinar for questions. If you have a question, go ahead and type it here, and we'll take some time to address those throughout the presentation. So with that said, our agenda for this afternoon. First off, I'll introduce your panelists. Then we'll move into a discussion of the pros and cons of SaaS and on-premise software. That will be followed by live overviews of both Intacct and Microsoft Dynamics GP, two of the leading middle market accounting software, also known as ERP software solutions out there today. My name is George Delp. I've been in selling and implementing ERP software for the last 15 years, and prior to that I was an auditor with one of the big four accounting firms. Joining me is Christy Perrin, who has 10 plus years working with QuickBooks, and also the last 3 years she spent working with Intacct, both in a consultative capacity as well as in a private industry capacity. And finally, we have Sean Dorward, who is another one of our implementation consultants like Christy is, and he has 16 plus years working with GP, Dynamics GP, as both a user and as a consultant. He's also an active member of something called the Dynamics GP User Group, or GPUG, if you want to Google that. And he's technically an all-star in that group. He participates a lot. So if you're interested in GP at all, it's something to check out. So let's move in to the discussion of on-premise versus cloud software. So on-premise 101. One of the major features of on-premise software is that you purchase a perpetual software license. And what that means is once you buy the software, you can use it in perpetuity. Basically, you can use it forever. As a result, there's a little bit of a higher upfront software cost with that, and then there's a reasonably low annual maintenance fee that you pay. Typically, those run in anywhere from 15 to 20% of your initial software outlay. Another key feature of the on-premise approach is that software that you purchase, you're going to run it on your own hardware. That means you have to have your own servers set up. It's going to typically have the Windows Server operating system. Microsoft SQL Server is a very popular database that's used by a lot of these middle market softwares. And as a result of that, you're either going to have an IT company that you outsource your IT support to, or have IT staff that can help you maintain your hardware, make sure that you have backup programs in place, disaster recovery, etc. So one last thing I want to point out with the on-premise approach, a lot of times it can be a little easier to do customizations or to get at your data, because you'll have direct database access, which you don't always have with some of the other options. These last 2 points, they're up for debate these days. The cloud solutions are doing a good job at making it easier to customize and get at the data, but still, if that is of paramount importance, it's something to consider. So software as a service, often abbreviated SaaS, it's also often called cloud, is the other end of the spectrum. So instead of laying out a lot of money up front to purchase the software, you look at it as a software rental, where you pay either monthly, or a lot of times you might pay annually. It can be a little cheaper to pay for 12 months at a time. But once you stop paying, you no longer have access to the software. So that's a fundamental difference between the two approaches. As a result, though, it's kind of like an ongoing medium software cost, as opposed to the on-premise, which is large up front and then smaller ongoing. Now, in this case, the vendor runs and maintains the servers. So you don't have to worry about that. You still have to have workstations. You still have to have a nice solid internet connection. But this is going to result in a lower annual internal IT cost. You're not going to have to maintain servers like you do in the on-premise environment. You can, like I mentioned, it can sometimes be a little more limited in what you can customize, and especially the direct database access. But again, depending on your needs, that may or may not be an issue. Another feature very common to the software as a service experience is it's typically a native web client in that all you need is your web browser. The on-premise solutions all evolved. It was client-server technology, but on your workstation, you'd load a piece of software which would connect to the server. And that's still in use today with quite a lot of the on-premise solutions. They are rolling out cloud or web clients for the on-premise, but anything that you look at, it could be Intacct like we're featuring today, or NetSuite or Acumatica, some of the other popular cloud options. They all have native web clients. So what about hosted systems? Now, hosted systems, this is a hybrid approach, and it has advantages of both the pure on-premise as well as the pure SaaS methods. You will typically purchase the software like an on-premise, but you'll have someone else host it for you. So if you don't want to have to deal with maintaining the servers and the upgrades and stuff like that, a company that specializes in hosting the software that you're looking at can be a nice option. Something that's somewhat new, but instead of purchasing the software, subscription pricing is also starting to become available. So you can have you purchase the software, but you're basically leasing it. A lot of times this approach will have the lowest total cost of ownership, because if you purchase the software, you get that out of the way, and then you're offloading the IT parts. It's definitely something to consider. With access method options, if you go back a few years, you use things like terminal server, remote desktop, or Citrix to access the hosted system. But as I mentioned, the on-premise players are coming out with web clients, so it makes it a lot easier just to use your browser to access your hosted system. So let's talk about some deployment and purchase examples. And these are the two packages that we're going to do the demos of today, so that's why I have them listed here. So Microsoft Dynamics GP, you can go on-premise on your hardware. We've been doing that since the 80s with Microsoft Dynamics GP. You can go on-premise hosted, or you can now do a subscription model and have it hosted as well. Now with Intacct, the other one, it's a newer solution, and it's pure SaaS. So that's the only option that you have there. So now let's talk a little bit about what would be right for you. On-premise with your hardware, if you have existing IT staff, existing IT infrastructure, maybe you have some custom software that's specific to your industry. You even have a development group, and it'd be just as simple as spinning up another virtual server. On-premise can make a lot of sense and leverage your existing investment. On the other hand, let's flip to the SaaS environment. If you have minimal IT infrastructure, you have no internal IT people, maybe you're a startup, and the last thing you want to think about is building out a complicated IT infrastructure. SaaS is a great option there. It lets you get rolling virtually instantly and not have to worry about a lot of these other things just because you just don't simply have those resources. Now, the on-premise plus hosted can leverage, sometimes IT departments are busy. Maybe that operational system takes all their time, and they just don't want to deal with maintaining another system. So you can, purchase the software you want. And the examples I have here, so like if you're going to host Microsoft Dynamics GP, Microsoft Azure is a popular option for that, or there's a lot of private hosting companies that provide that service as well. And the subscription plus hosted is basically the same thing as on-premise plus hosted. It just spreads your payments out a little bit more. It's less upfront and more over time. Now, that's all great, but the one thing we haven't mentioned, which is very important in any, whenever you're looking at software, is, what about the functionality? So these are some of the industries. We have a lot of experience with both of these solutions, and we find Microsoft Dynamics GP and Intacct are both great for just general financial accounting purposes. They both do a bang-up job there. But if you're like in the supply chain, like distribution or manufacturing, GP generally has a bit richer functionality out of the box for that. It also does well in the not-for-profit and government sector. Intacct, on the other hand, it has some really nice features for financial services and especially project accounting organizations like professional services, like consultancies or engineering firms. And you'll see a little bit of that as we go through. We'll touch on some of the time and expense and project accounting on Intacct. And it also does well with not-for-profit. The reason that Intacct doesn't get the government nod, even though government and not-for-profit have a lot of similarities, is Dynamics GP has some built-in modules specific to government, like dealing with grants and tracking grant expenditures and some other things there. So with that said, we're going to take a quick pause for some questions. And if there are no questions, of which there not, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Christy, who is going to spend some time and show us Intacct. So I'm going to make you the presenter, Christy.
Okay, I am going to show my screen. Let's make sure I show the right one here. That one. Okay, can you see my screen okay, George?
Yes, looks great.
Okay, great. Hello. I am here to show you a little bit about Intacct today. We're going to go over a number of different modules that are available to you. We're going to start out with the dashboards and navigation, and then we're going to move to something that's unique to Intacct, which is the dimensions. And then we're going to go over a few specific modules, starting with the PO, Purchasing and Requisitions module, your time and expense module, again, talk a little bit about project accounting, and get into the reporting. So I'm going to jump right into Intacct. And you can see Intacct right here. I'm logged in as Carla Grace, who is the controller of my company here. And as you can see, we've got a dashboard that opens right up. And you have easy company selection with a multi-tenant cloud environment with access from any device. So I'm going to slide into the Qubit USA entity. And my dashboard appears as I need it to. The dashboard is your entry into the Intacct software. And as you can see, I've got my modules that are available to me up here on top. And of course, you're only going to see the modules that you have requested and that you have permission to see based on permissions and your login information. I'm going to move over to the home page so that I can show you that. And here at the Intacct home page, you can see that you can also access your applications and modules right here. You have your resource such as Intacct Help. Intacct Help is updated regularly. You can see that this front page was posted on 10/13/15, so it's very recent. You have your Intacct community. You also have release notes such as your recent product news, your Intacct Learning Center, a place where you can purchase your checks and supplies, and your CSV upload templates. Next, we have our dashboard. Multiple dashboards are available. And for Carla, she likes her controller dashboard. She likes to see her balance sheet, her cash balance, and her profit and loss. We have different graphs that are available, and you can add shortcuts or actions. In order to add a dashboard, they're a great way to create additional visibility, flexibility, and automation to your Intacct experience and shows real-time information. You can have as many as you like, and you have the ability to add charts, performance cards, or different records. Add your message board, shortcuts, and different features. You also have the ability over here to add a smart link. It's a very handy feature. You can add the web URL to commonly used websites such as a bank or your own company website. It's clickable right from your dashboard. I'm going to wait for it to refresh. Next, I'm going to talk about your dimensions. Dimensions are tags that can be applied to transactions. Each transaction can be tagged with multiple dimensions. It comes with 8 out-of-the-box dimensions: your customers, vendors, employee, location, department, project class, and item. This explains the who, what, and where of a transaction. For example, when you sell an item, who did you sell it to? What did you sell? And which location did you sell it from? All of this information becomes searchable and reportable from the dimension of this transaction. As every business is different, Intacct allows you to customize your dimensions to suit your needs. For example, if you were a nonprofit, you may want to call your customers constituents and your locations funds. If you need more dimensions, Intacct provides the ability to add additional user-defined dimensions. Dimensions not only create a filterable environment for reporting, but also reduces the need for an extensive and complicated chart of account system. No need to have a chart of account translator code. To interpret location, department, or project, only the natural account is needed. Here you can see what was once 75 account code combinations are now only 1, and the information remains available for search and reporting. I would also like to mention account groups here, which are the building blocks of your financial reporting. By utilizing account groups, you can create a reusable structure that is easy to manage and update over time. I'm going to move back to Intacct. I'm going to talk about the purchasing module. Where you create your purchase orders and requisitions transactions. Same as all of the other modules within Intacct. Double-clicking at the top and it shows your company workflow. You can also slide over the module and it'll show you your tasks and other available actions. At the top of your workflow, you can see the data records that are available within this module. And below, you can see the tasks and workflow, and also which reports work and are available within this module. Let's say an employee wants a new monitor. I'm going to go into the vendor record from the workflow, and a searchable list appears. If I wanted to add a vendor, as with all modules within Intacct, I can select the plus sign to add, or add from the select screen, from the list screen. Viewing an individual vendor, the first tab shows the basic contact information, including the URL and an email address for easy contact. Next tab is additional information, where I can enter in 1099 information. You also have the ability to add as many contacts as you need. Multiple contacts per vendor are available and can auto-populate on transactions. Payment information allows you even more space to include vendor record-specific information, such as term right here, to assist with data entry and payment method, which is over here. You can also enter in your ACH information. Now that we know that the vendor record is complete, we can create a purchase requisition. Again, we can add from your module selection, or we can go to the workflow and create a purchase requisition. We're trying to order a new monitor. So I'm going to enter in, even though we have a number of available fields, I'm just going to enter the ones required in red, which is how it is across Intacct. It auto-populates from the vendor record. And I also want to make sure to show you the attachments available. You can attach whatever it is that you need to see and view. Once I've entered in the necessary information, I can have the option to submit or save in draft mode. For example, if I was getting ready to go to lunch and I wasn't quite completed in entering this transaction, I could save it in draft mode so that I can return after lunch. This option is also available to assist with approval levels, as permissions can be limited to save as draft at the user level, and someone can submit the transaction. Approvals are available throughout Intacct in different levels. I would also like to point out once submitted, this transaction enters the workflow and can be converted. So now that my record is entered, I can make it into a purchase order or vendor invoice, and it converts easily into the next transaction, auto-populating the necessary information. And it continues along throughout the workflow. The next module I'd like to show you is time and expenses. In time and expenses, you have the ability to manage timesheets and your employee expenses. You want to enter in a timesheet for Carla Grace. I can enter in description, again attachments, whatever project I'm working on, whatever tasks, and either draft or submit, where it can enter the approvals process. In the projects module, you have all of your management functionality, all of your project management functionality available, such as projects, project resources, tasks, and task resources. You can create custom views and reports to aid in utilizing your resources efficiently. In addition, you can enter positions and skills or project planning and search for resource availability. I'm going to show you that here. You can search by employee, employee type, to make sure that you have the resources available for whatever project you're working on. Your reports can be out of the box and can be customized and saved for later use or added to your dashboard. Here I'm going to add this report straight to your dashboard. It's already there. So if I went to my dashboard, I would see this DH projects. Speaking of reports, Intacct comes with over 100 standard reports already created for you and available for duplicating and editing. Once you have chosen the report, you can view the data by HTML, PDF, CSV, or Excel. You can process and store a snapshot report as it is today, or you can schedule it and email it later. In HTML, you have drill down capacity. To go down and see where the information is coming from, all the way to the transaction level. The ability to edit these reports is not your only option. You also have a report writer where you can create your own. I'm going to go in and create my own P&L today. And within the financial report writer, you have the ability to create your own structure based on accounts or dimensions, where you can put your accounts in rows. Next, I'm going to go into the rows and select account groups. Here is where the account groups become your building blocks of your report. I'm going to select net income today. You can use the ones provided by Intacct or create your own should you need it. Many come out of the box. I can determine whether I'm going to show my detail level or by summary level. Then I can go to my columns. Here you can see where I can edit my account names, or I can go into my data. Your column types, you have a variety available to you, from computations to budgets or even percentages. You can adjust your reporting period. I'm going to select current year, and you can expand. I'm going to expand by time period, but you also have the ability to expand by departments, locations, and other dimensions. I'm going to expand by months today. Here you can see where I've expanded by months. You also have the ability to add computations to these columns. You can add computations should you need something like a financial ratio. When you add computations, you have many options available to you. You can do a variable by account group or constant, whatever mathematical operation you need, and then select your variable value. You also have filters where you can select what type of filter you need. I'm going to select my Qubit USA company. And then you also have a variety of formatting options. Your general formatting, your page setup and columns, where you can adjust your color, size, or even your font. You can also go in your rows and totals and make any adjustments you need there to where you can adjust your spacing. You also have availability to determine who has permission to see these reports, who has access, whether it's everyone or just yourself. Lastly, you have the availability to preview the report as you create it. And you can see the report as it expands. You can save the report. And you can add the report to your dashboard. Once you go back to your dashboard, we're back at the beginning. Where we can see that this report is available to us as we enter into Intacct. George, thanks for listening, and everybody, thanks for listening today. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, Christy, thanks a bunch for that. Let's see if we have any questions. We do have one. The question is, can you schedule, is there a report scheduler in the Intacct report tool?
Absolutely. It's as simple as going to the report and scheduling it. And then you have it available to you based on filters and schedules and delivery options.
That looks pretty nice. All right, thank you for that, Christy. I think that's the only question that we have. So I'm going to go ahead, we're going to go ahead and turn this over to Sean, and he's going to walk us through Microsoft Dynamics GP.
Great. Thank you, George. Thank you, Chris. You can see my screen there, George?
It looks good.
All right, great. So thank you, everyone. What you see here is the home page for Microsoft Dynamics GP. One thing I want to first point out is how familiar this might look as part of the Microsoft family of software. A lot of the more common aspects are part of this software product as well. So we have our drop-down menus, a shortcut area with expandable file explorer-like grouping, and navigation buttons here to get us from module to module. Dynamics GP has all of the core functionality of any ERP, and I want to take some time to show you how this can be customized for each individual user while showing you some of the functionality and reporting. So to get started, we'll talk about our home screen. And this is our home screen. This is unique to each user. And right now I have 3 what are called content blocks displayed. And these are resizable and movable. And I can also add other standard content blocks. I can change the column or layout. I want to make this narrower to 2 columns, 3 or 1. And then if we maximize one of the content blocks, we can also choose how to stack the remaining. So I have it set to on the right now. And I'll come back and maximize one of these. And now all of my other content blocks are neatly organized on the right side. I'm going to go back and put this back to the 3 that we're going to talk about today. And that is the to-do content box, quick links, and my reports. And we'll get to quick links and my reports just a little bit later. In the to-do content section, we have reminders, tasks, and workflow tasks. And this is sort of your accountability section for each user. Reminders are built on what are called smart lists, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. And tasks are much like you would imagine in Outlook. And workflow tasks are reminders that, hey, you have a batch to approve, or even notifications that your batch was approved. So let's go ahead and look at the reminders. You see we have 2 different types of reminders, just the standard text version here, and then 2 with what is called a visual cue. This helps articulate the number of records that are meeting this criteria. And here we have customers over the credit limit, and you can see that it's telling us there are 5. I'm going to go in. As I mentioned, we can customize this. There are many out-of-the-box reminders, predefined reminders that you can even customize a little bit as far as the frequency of the reminder. Down here are custom reminders. We build these on smart lists. We're going to focus on customers over the credit limit right now. I hit on modify, and you can see here's our smart list that this is using. And we want to be reminded when the number of records is greater than 0. And I'm going to change this to show the display as a queue and come back out here to my home page. And so now you see in my task area, my reminder area, I can now see that visual queue for customers over credit limit. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that to show you the simplicity here. I click on that and it's going to launch right away the Smart List tool. So let's talk about Smart List for just a bit. Smart List is a in-the-system tool that allows you to look at all of your data in Dynamics GP and any other data stored on your SQL server. So you can combine data from other sources and see that information right here in one spot. What's great about this, among other things, is they're organized neatly so that you can find the Smart List quickly, and they're organized by module. Also, another feature, another benefit, is that it's a linear report, basically a data set. And you can control what columns to pull in. You can control lots of different variables, and this particular one is set up to show customer balance is greater than their credit limit, and that's where we get the record set for customers over their credit limit. So right here I am with that list of customers over their credit limit, and I have 5 in here right now. And what is really nice about this is right from here I can double click on that customer and go right to their customer card in the system. Customer card is basically equivalent to the master record. This is true for accounts, customers, inventory, employees, vendors, etc. So I have this on my reminder for a reason, because one of my responsibilities is to manage customers over their credit limit. And I know that in my inbox I have an approval letter from a customer, and they were requesting a credit increase. So what I'd like to do is actually, since this was approved, is attach that to their customer record and increase their credit limit. So let's go to Data Communications Customer Card. I'm going to go into the options and increase their credit limit to the $30,000 that they requested, and hit OK. So right here on this particular master window, there's a couple good things to mention here. We have what is called a window note, and I can add a window note, maybe identifying procedures for this window. And you can even attach documents. But in addition to the window note, you have the customer or the card level note. And so this is available in all of the master records. I'm going to click on that note for data communications, and I'm going to attach that actual Word document. And if I can find it, there we go. Oh, this document. So, sorry about that. There we go. So I'm going to attach that document, and now that is attached to this record for me to click on and preview right from the record. I'm going to hit OK, and then close this. And now anyone who can come into the system and see that approval letter, and that's why their credit limit was increased. So now if I refresh this list, I've increased their credit limit. This should drop from 5 to 4, and now I have 4 remaining. My inbox is empty as far as approved credit limit requests go. So now what I want to do is go back to my home page, and I'm going to create a task to send off so that I can remind Sean to check the request that he has. So I'm going to go into Task, create a new task, and say Review Credit Increase Requests, and I'm going to assign that to Sean. I can even add a link here so that when he logs in and this reminder pops up, this task pops up, it can take him to a particular window in the system. I'm going to give it a due date, and off that'll go onto Sean's home screen when he logs in. So that's a little bit about reminders and tasks. Next, let's go into our financial module. Down here on our navigation buttons, we can see financial, sales, etc. These are the option modules currently available to me. I'm going to come into financial and just show you a little bit about transactions for journal entries. You can see this page for financial looks very similar to our home page with these content blocks. They can be moved around and resized just like on our home page. Or we can even take that one step further and say, I don't have administrative privileges, so why would I want to see setup? And I can turn setup off. Well, let's go ahead into general. And we're going to talk about this transaction entry window. And this is where we would enter journal entries. So as you can see, we get a default journal entry number. We are typical transaction types of standard and reversing. Our transaction date, we can assign it to a batch. We can give it a reference. We have to give it a reference. All these in red are required. And then naturally our general ledger account number and amounts. So I'm going to go ahead and I have rent disbursements I need to put a journal entry for. So I'm going to say rent payment. And I'm going to tab down to the account. And I don't know my rent account off the top of my head. So I'm going to use the lookup here. And I can either sort by account number here easily or by description. So I'm going to just do description and type in rent. And we're going to use our administrative account here. So it's that easy to find the correct account. And I'm going to put in my amount and then my cash account as well, which I do know off the top of my head. And you can just type that in. If it's not a correct account number, you would get an error. So there's my entry. Very simple, 2-line entry. And I'm going to go ahead and post that. And oh gosh, I just saw that there. This is probably going to show it. Yeah, I put my debits and credits backwards. So yeah, I've never done that before. But the cool thing about that is we can go back into that window now and use an additional feature of this window. And it's called the correct. And so we can use correct and back out and even create a correcting journal entry in just a simple step. So I'm going to go select my most recent journal entry. That's the one that this knucklehead posted backwards. Hit OK. And you can see now my rent account, which I inadvertently put as a credit, is now automatically put to the debit. I'm going to create a batch to save this to so I can show you what happens with it. So that's the correct one. It even defaults the reference for us. And when I hit save, now it automatically goes ahead and creates the correcting journal entry. Now the correcting journal entry is just going to revert back to the original. And of course, in this case, my original was just switched my debits and credits, so I can go ahead and do that. And now both of those transactions are saved in a batch for me to post. Another nice feature here, this is batch level. So those two transactions were combined into one batch. I can add additional layers of diligence here. And so for example, I can go ahead and look at a batch edit prior to posting, making sure that my debits and credits are correct. I can even go ahead and add some controls to this window and say that we have to have our journal entry and batch totals, or even one more layer of approval. So I'm just going to save that for right now. Next, I'm going to go back into general and show you another feature. So I've got 174 facilities that I'm managing these rent disbursements for. I don't want to key 174 transactions. I'm just going to show you a nice little feature, very helpful, called paste to journal entry. And if I come over here to Excel, I have a very simple 2-line entry. Look at there, my debits and credits are in the right spot. I'm just going to copy that, come back to GP, put in my required information, and then use this paste feature. And just like that, that 2-line entry is pasted here. That helps save errors for sure, but saving a little bit of time for 2-line entries may not be that beneficial. Let's take a look at just one other example here relating to it. So here's my actual Excel spreadsheet that I keep track of my rent and my facilities. And as facility rents change, I can change it right in here. And I have this linked right over into my Excel paste tab. So that's pretty dynamic, and I don't have to manage that as much as I normally would have to. I'm just going to copy this result, all the way down from my 174 facility, come into the transaction again, and put in my reference and paste that. And so just in a matter of seconds, I've entered 174 lines of transaction. I can even use this batch control 98240 and compare it to my total on my Excel spreadsheet. There is a really, really helpful feature saving a lot of time, especially for Excel-based tasks. Another aspect of the financial module that I wanted to point out is multidimensional analysis, and these are analysis codes that help keep your general ledger account structure a little neat and tidy, but still giving you the flexibility to analyze data on a little bit more of a granular level. So let me come over to my cards, and here is analysis groups, and I'm just going to open that and show you one. So you have company vehicles perhaps, and you can say this is my company vehicle group, and these are all my company vehicles, the vehicle 1, 2, and 3 here in this example. And I'm just going to show you how that works. Let's jump over to purchasing, and we're going to go to batches. And batches is under transactions. And you can see there are a lot of links here for transaction-related windows in the system, but I'm looking for batches, which is down here. So let's pause there for a minute. That took me a little bit longer than I'd like to, and I use this window a lot. So let's go back to our home page and take advantage of this window here called our quick links. So if I know I access a particular window frequently, I can add that here to my quick links, and it's very simple to do. I'm just going to come in and add a GP window. It's under transactions for purchasing, and there it is, batches, and hit OK. And so now the batches shortcut is right here on my quick links. So these quick links can basically surround your procedures throughout the day, getting you to where you need to be quicker and easier. I can also reorganize that if I'd like to. I'll come in here. Batches is always the bottom. I generally go there first, so I'm going to move it all the way up, and I hit OK. And so now that's now at the top. So let's go ahead back over to purchasing. Sorry about that distraction. And we're going to create a purchasing transaction and show you how that account analysis group works. So now I'm in the transaction entry window, and much like I showed you on the receivable side, on the sales side, we have transaction level notes and also window level notes. This would be helpful if you had a scanned image of this transaction. You can attach it right here for others to see. So I'm going to quickly create this transaction and come down here, pick my vendor, give it a document number or an invoice number. And this is a $4,500 transaction. And I'm going to come in here to distributions. And so now distributions, you'll note that it's already populated general ledger distribution account. This is defaulted on the vendor card. So you can predefine the general ledger purchase account. But in this case, I want to override it because this is going to go directly to the fleet account. So I'm going to again use my lookup, search by description. Just look for my fleet expense. There's my fleet vehicle expense. And I have this set up that anything coded to the fleet vehicle expense needs to have an account analysis group and code set up. So this is what this warning is, saying, hey, you forgot to set that up. I'm going to hit OK, come back in, and just quickly go to the analysis where here's my company vehicle, and I'm just going to tell it which vehicle this was for. So vehicle number 3, this is for a new transmission, and it was the whole 4,500, not 45,000. And hit OK, and OK, and save. So now I have that transaction key. I'm going to post my batch so that I can show you how that information can be seen in SmartList and in the GP report. Okay, so now that is good. And in order to see multidimensional analysis information, we go back to Financial, go to Reports, click on Multidimensional Analysis, go to Account Analysis. There's my vehicle report, and I can specify which vehicle. So there's my vehicle 3, and there's my report. Not too bad. So now without having to expand my general ledger account, I can see those vehicle-specific expenses. Now, that was like 7 clicks to get to that report, and I'd have to remember that too. A lot of functionality in the system, but to make that simpler for us, we can come back to our home page, and if we're going to get that report often, we want to use our My Report section, and I can add reports to that very simply. I'm going to add that here. This is going to open up a My Reports list. Oh, pardon me. I'm going to go back to Financial. I'm going to open up the Microsoft Dynamics GP reports. This is going to load all of the reports that are available in the Financial module, regardless of how you navigate to them. So here, fortunately, Account Analysis is right at the top, and there's my vehicle report. So I can click that and add to reports, give it a name, and now I don't have to go through those 7 clicks. I can see my Account Analysis report right here at the click of a button. One more layer to that is over in Smart List, and Smart List has pre-built multi-dimension analysis reports, and here's the pre-built one. So there's all the transactions, and I've actually filtered this down to show the related expenses by vehicle, and there is our $4,500 transaction, which I can double click on and take to my analysis entry. Pretty cool, pretty cool. I can hear you clapping. Okay, so we do all this hard work, we have it set up, and now we want to get some information out of the system. We've talked about Smart List a bit, and I want to show you their Management Reporter tool. It's just that, it's a reporting tool that is used to build financial statements, income statement, balance sheet, etc. This is what the product looks like when you first open it, and again, the very familiar look and feel of the Microsoft family of products, drop-down menus, navigation bar, navigation buttons. I've opened up the report definition for income statements. The report definition is a predefined collection of your row setting, column setting, and tree setting. Tree setting gives you the flexibility to leverage segments in your general ledger structure like department, cost center, etc. And the row is just that, much like you would think in Excel. It's specifying the detail that is going to be reported. So let's open up the row, 1 click. So in this particular line, this account category is included. Column works in conjunction with the row, but this controls what data the row uses. So in this particular column, for that row we just showed, it's going to show the current period. And in this particular column, it's going to show the year-to-date for that particular row, for each row. You can also add budgets here, multiple periods at once, multiple years, etc., calculations, ratios, everything you'd expect. Let's go ahead and run that report. And I'm going to run this, and this, while that's running, Management Reporter has 3 different layers of security. You can control which user has the ability to create reports, which users have the ability just to run a report, or even go even one step further and only allow certain users to view the report. They can't even rerun it. They just view the most recent. So the report now is ready, and I want to show you around here just a little bit. Note here that I can add comments, so that if I saw this particular line and was puzzled about it, I did some research and everything looks good, I can add a comment here for everyone to see so they don't do that same work. Also, to do that research, I'm going to click on there and click drill down, and it'll take me to, well, in this case, it's just one, but I can go one step further and drill down yet another layer and actually see that transaction level detail from the report, so that I can do this all in one product rather than having to go back and pull posting journals, etc. Also, right from within the product, we can email it or export it to Excel. And so I'm going to export it to Excel. And there it is exported to Excel. Very, very nice, very clean. Also want to point out something relatively new is the formulas that come over for summing up data in your columns. So that's just a quick look at Management Reporter. So we have layered information in Smart Lists, analytical type, linear, management type reports for financial reporting. And also you can go one step further and use KPIs. And on our content page, I'm just going to add this to it and show you, give you a look at some of these reports that are charts that are pulling right from your system. So I can see right now, here's my payable summary by type. I can see my aging totals, all this right from on our home screen, and they're completely customizable. There's hundreds of them to choose from. Now that's for folks in GP. Those same reports are available in a companion app called Business Analyzer, and I have Business Analyzer loaded here. So you can see I've got a lot of details that I can see for these particular reports. I'm just going to click on this one. This is available on your favorite tablets or desktops as I'm using now. So I've clicked on this net income summary. All I did was click on that, and I see a simple bar chart. I can go ahead and use comparison view to compare the current and maybe the prior year, or even budgets. And if you're forecasting, I can see this data in a linear set. I can see it in a line chart, and I can also see it in a stacked column. Very neat, very handy. And by the way, this Business Analyzer is free in the Windows Store. So that's a nice little feature. Well, George, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right, Sean, that was great. Appreciate it. Let's see if there's any questions. And we have one. Has to do with Smart List. Can you administer security on Smart List?
Yes, you certainly can. Great question. Great question. So Smart List security works in two different ways. When you create a new favorite, you can apply layers of availability. And what that means is I can make this favorite only available to myself, or maybe to my colleagues in the accounts payable group, or to everyone in the system. An additional part of that is through the software itself, you can say, yes, this user has access to these smart lists, or no, this user does not. So it's very, very functional, very has a nice tight control around it, particularly in the payroll area. Great question.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sean. And I think, yep, that's it for the questions. I want to thank everybody for their time this afternoon. If you'd like some more information, you can call us at 704-846-6750. You can email us at info@interdyneartist.com. My name is George. You can also email me directly, george@interdyneartist.com, and that's George, and www.interdyneartist.com is our website. So I'll let this sit up here for another minute or two if you want to copy any of that information down. And we hope to talk to you soon. And everybody have a great day. Thanks again for attending.